Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to a Monday edition of the Mark Moses Show, only right here on the Mark Moses Show podcast. Yes, we are broadcasting live here from beautiful Brevard County, here on the coast in Central Florida. And this show is always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys Studios. And you could take back control of your life. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Yes, it's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Always a great friend of the Mark Moses Show. Also, want to give a shout out to another great podcast partner of ours here on the Mark Moses Show. It is Walk-On Sports Bistreaux in Viera, home of the $5 Tito's all day, every day, and Walk-On's Viera. And this is the key. Don't forget, we are going to be at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux this Thursday night for my 5th annual NFL Draft Watch Party. I'm going to get there around 7:15, 7:20, set up about 7:30 or so. I'm telling you the logistics behind the scenes. And then we are going to get ready to rock and roll with the draft party on Thursday night there at Walk-Ons. It's free to come, and our big game coming up Thursday night is this. The first 10 picks are going to be from 8 to 10 p.m. You get the most picks right in the first round, top 10, you will win our grand prize. I'm going to go to the Highland Mint after the show today, pick up some official Super Bowl coins and NFL draft coins that I'll be giving away from the Highland Mint later this week at Walk-Ons. I know Walk-Ons are going to be giving away some gift cards as well. They're going to have amazing food and drink specials. Come join me this Thursday night there at Walk-Ons for our official NFL Draft Watch Party 2025. That's right. Tennessee's on the clock with the first pick. So we're going to talk more NFL Draft as the week goes on and then really recap on Friday. That's a big show for me, really recapping the first round of the NFL Draft. So lots going on. The question is, where do I start? A lot of topics. It was a great weekend. And I hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. If you're celebrating Easter or you're finishing up Passover like I did, hey, it was a great holiday weekend, but now it's time to get back to the grind. And I just want to say this. I watched a lot of NBA basketball yesterday, with it being opening weekend of the NBA playoffs. And I watched that first one where Oklahoma City beat Memphis by 51 points. 51. And my brother said it best. It could have been worse. I'm not kidding around. It could have been worse as a game. They could have lost by 75 points. So when that game ended, I'm thinking, hey, I don't have high expectations for the Orlando Magic. But, if they lose by 20, hey, it's still not 51 points. You'll take the 20. And I wasn't shocked. If you just want my opinion, I wasn't shocked they lost. I knew Boston was going to come out, and I talked about this previewing this series. I knew them going in. I knew they were going to flex their muscle. They're going to hit the three. They're going to play defense. They're the defending champs for a reason. They're better in Orlando, and they showed it yesterday. Even though the Magic were up, 49-48 at halftime, and the Magic played great in that second quarter. I just thought the adjustments and just how their players, their rotation, their core knows how to play together. They know what they're doing. And they showed it in that second half. And what's scary, as I know game 2 is coming up on Wednesday night, the top 2 players, top 2 all-stars for the Boston Celtics didn't even play that well. They didn't. Tatum and Brown really did not deliver yesterday. Other guys did, where Derek Wright had 30 points off 7 3-pointers. Pritchard, what do you have, 19 points? They had other guys step up for Boston, and they took it to the Orlando Magic in that second quarter. And I said this last night on TV. Look, Paolo was a stud. Franz played great as well. Those guys combined for 50-plus points yesterday for the Orlando Magic. Franz and Paolo are good. The question is, who else on the team wants to step up for the Orlando Magic? That's got to be the question. Who else wants to step up for them? Because I looked at the stat, and again, I said this on TV last night on News 13, if you didn't see it, where Pritchard for the Magic, Pritchard for Boston had 19 points in the win. The guards for the Magic, so you can go over all of them, Caleb Houston, and you go Anthony Black and Cole Anthony and all these guys. They scored a combined 16 points. The backcourt and the bench guards scored a combined 16 points. That's not going to get it done. It's not. That was a joke yesterday. So if you go into this game to Wednesday night, we're going to have multiple days rest, getting ready for it. Today, tomorrow, then get ready for Wednesday night. Who else wants to step up for this team? Who wants to become a playoff player for the Orlando Magic? Paolo had 30 plus. Franz had 20 plus. Did anyone else even want to shoot the ball? Forget about scoring the basket. Does anyone else want to score, shoot, do anything on offense? That was not good. And again, I'm a little nervous where Tatum and Brown did not show up in game one. You know they're going to make an effort, especially early, first, second quarter there in Boston, to get it going early, where they're going to try to score points. And last year in the playoffs, the Magic went 7 games. And they didn't win a road game. They lost 4 to Cleveland on the road. And that was the difference. And if the Magic had home court in that 4-5 playoff series last year, maybe they would have won last year and moved on. They don't have home court either. They've got to steal game 2. I was asked the question where it's like, okay, was game 1 a must win? No, but you better split the first 2 games. If you want to win the series, you're going to have to win a game in Boston. You're going to have to. And then you're going to have to really, really play well on your home court. So here's the schedule. They play Wednesday night, game 2 in Boston. Then this Friday night, the Magic are going to be home at the Kia Center. That's game 3. Then game 4 is Sunday night. And hopefully we get to a game 5 or 6 in this series. But it felt like last night, Boston was the better team. They showed it on the court. And they want to go win another NBA title. And it was very interesting. I'm just going to say this. It was very interesting when you're looking at Twitter with Orlando Magic fans. The X, if you want, Elon Musk turned it to X. There wasn't this sense of, oh, let's blame this player. Let's blame this. This was stupid. And look, fans in the heat of the moment, they always are critical of the head basketball coach or head football coach or the manager in baseball, right? There were some people ripping Coach Mosley. Okay. The feeling I got was Magic Twitter yesterday was really angry at the front office, where Jeff Weltman was getting a lot of heat yesterday from the Magic fans, where why is this the team we're putting on the court? Why do we have Paolo and Franz and then no one else who can play at a high level? That's what it was. And I get it. You don't have Jalen Suggs injured for the year. Mo Wagner also injured for the year. You're not at full strength. Magic fans, they don't want to get embarrassed on national TV. They want to put up a fight, and they want to go on a deep playoff run, and I don't blame them. So game 2 coming up Wednesday night. So you had that going on. Then late last night, I turned on my Peacock app, and I saw the end of WrestleMania. I did. The night before, Saturday night, I watched the main event where Seth Rollins, fellow Chicago Bears fan, he got help from Paul Heyman beating Roman Reigns and CM Punk. He's not going to be aligned with him. I like this. Okay. Turning heel, going to be with Heyman. We'll see what storylines happen moving forward. I like that. Then last night, that main event was one of those things where it's like, what in God's name am I watching? What is this exactly? All right. I like Joe Hendry showing up to take on Randy Orton. Then he got squashed. That part I understand, but he's the TNA champion. And I saw him at NXT in Orlando. Joe Hendry, that guy's good. He's got a future in wrestling. I like him. Then Becky Lynch showed up as the man. She took over for Bailey, who got injured allegedly. The man showed up, beats up the tag team champs. Now her and what's that woman's name? I forget who her tag team champion partner is, but I met her at NXT as well. She showed up as a bird. There's too many names in my head. But the man, Becky Lynch, got it done. Congratulations. So I'm liking the show. I am. I really am. And even Jake Paul or Logan Paul, I forget those two brothers. I get them confused. I liked his match. Seriously, I did with the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. I actually like that. I think that was a good match. It was. And then the main event happened. And there was a part of me, I wasn't really into it. And then I kind of was. And it was John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. And Cena is a heel. If you don't know what that is, he's a bad guy now. And it was one of those moments where, okay, all right. They're both giving each other finishers and no one's getting the 3 count. And yeah, this is getting interesting. I like this. And you're kind of thinking like, maybe John Cena is going to win this. And I'll tell you why. I think they made a mistake, because I book people all the time, booking people, getting people on the show, trying to preview, tease, all that stuff as a host. It was interesting right before the main event. So Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, they're on the microphone and they're talking to the camera and they're like, hey, don't forget tomorrow on Pat McAfee's show on ESPN, he's going to have John Cena on and he's going to talk about Mania. And I'm like, all right, well, if that's the case, Cena's going to win this. He's going to win. He's going to come out on Pat McAfee with the belt. So it kind of felt like, and this is just my theory, it kind of felt like they gave away the ending where, okay, Cena's going to win, where you're not going to have Cena on if he loses this and he gets squashed. No, you'd have Cody Rhodes on. So when that match is going on, I'm like, what? Cena's probably going to win this. And he's going to win his 17th championship. So I'm liking it. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. And then Travis Scott shows up. Why? What? Why? Travis Scott? What are you doing? What is this? And it wasn't like Travis Scott just, it's not like he just ran in and hit someone with a chair. Oh, no. While all the momentum's going on, where these two are fighting, they stop, play this guy's music, and then he takes his sweet-ass time to get to the ring. And then he gets in the ring. Again, this is not a wrestler. I now respect Logan Paul or Jake Paul, whichever Paul it is in the ring last night. I respect him more now. He comes in there. He looks like he weighs 100 pounds compared to the rest of those guys. And then Cody Rhodes just body slams him. And that was the end of that. What? Huh? And then John Cena kicks Cody Rhodes in the groin, chair shots him, wins the belt. Where's The Rock? Where's he at? What are you doing? I don't understand. I was so confused. And a lot of WWE fans who do understand that it is not real and the outcome is predetermined. Yes, WWE fans are very smart. They were not happy last night. No, maybe they're happy John Cena won. They didn't like that last night. I think that was a big failure, especially compared to last year, where it was finished the story and The Rock showed up and John Cena showed up and The Undertaker showed up, all those people to finish it off. What do we get this year? Travis Scott. What? What are you talking about? That was awful. Why don't you just bring back Pete Rose in the San Diego Chicken outfit? Why don't you bring Ben Stiller to show up? I mean, that was bad. Bad. But you know what I like John Cena said afterwards? This is old school. Okay. I like this. He had the press conference and they're like, what are your thoughts? He says, you'll find out tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw. Yes, I like that. That's the way wrestling should be. Yes. I love it. I do. You know what? I'm going to tune in tonight. I am. Because the Raw after Mania is must-see TV. Because that's when they reshuffle the deck and start with the new storylines. And I'm sorry, I like Cody Rhodes. He's a good dude. He was a boring champion. He was. This last year has been boring. Boring. Now we're going to have new storylines. Maybe Cena will be the champ at 47 years old. Maybe Roman Reigns, CM Punk, all these new storylines. Yes, I like it. I do. We're here on the Mark Moses Show podcast. Yes, we want to thank our great friends with Walk On Sports Bistreaux and Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. I'm going to end with this. So Friday night in Melbourne, here locally, in case you don't live here, the cable show Bar Rescue was here in town because they were helping out the establishment Hurricane Creek, where they were going to help them rebrand themselves to become a better bar restaurant establishment. So it appears, I saw the videos and the photos, and thanks to my buddy Cecil, who did a live video. And I know the mayor, Paul, Alvar, he was posting videos as well. And Mr. Reporter, I like that, Paul. So they're down there. Thousands of people are in downtown Melbourne. Thousands to see this. Because what they did last night, they were filming the episode, which it appears, I'm getting reports, won't come out for 6 months or so, maybe even longer. I don't know. Maybe you have an update I don't know about. Leave it in the comments. So thousands of people are in downtown Melbourne to see this unveiling, to see it. And they wanted to see the guy who, yells at people on Bar Rescue. Thousands of people showed up to go see that. Thousands. So it shows you people want to see a show. People want to be entertained. They want to see something big going on. It's just interesting. Customers want to show up and spend money. They want to go see things. So you could see in the video, they unveil the new name, Hurricane Creek, which is a great name. But it appears the people at Bar Rescue, they went with Neon Rodeo. That's the name they went with. Neon Rodeo. And then the sign's not even neon. That happened. And man, I can't stress this enough. Saturday morning, I posted on Facebook. Okay, this is all I wrote. Did not even give my opinion. I wrote, okay, Hurricane Creek is now being called Neon Rodeo. The comment section on my Facebook page did not disappoint. No, it did not. People were giving their opinions. Yes, I like Hurricane Creek. I do. Neon Rodeo, we'll see if it catches on. I have seen Bar Rescue episodes where people have done the change, did everything Bar Rescue did, then 3 weeks later said, screw them, and went back to their original name and idea. I would not be shocked if Randy, yes, the owner of Hurricane Creek, who I know, I could see him in a couple weeks. Maybe he changes it back to Hurricane Creek. We'll find out. Look, dude, he does a great job on Sundays during the NFL season where it's like a Cleveland Browns watch party. Hell, should have just called the place Cleveland Browns watch party. Neon Rodeo. That's the name. All right. Again, the comment section, amazing. Thank you for all your comments. That was awesome. Yeah, and we need to do more of that type of stuff. We do. All right. Here's what we're going to do moving forward. We're going to have great guests on. And I taped with both these gentlemen earlier today because of their schedules. First one is Philip Rossman-Reich, Orlando Magic Daily. He's there in Boston right now. We recapped what happened yesterday to the Orlando Magic. Then later, you're going to hear from John Torres with the Florida Today. Phenomenal journalistic reporting from him. And we'll break that down in about 15 minutes. Let's go to Philip first. Yes. His thoughts. He's there in Boston. He was there at the Garden yesterday. His thoughts on what happened to the Magic and what can they do to regroup and try to win game 2. Here's Phil Rossman-Reich, Orlando Magic Daily. And joining me live from Boston, Mass, to recap what happened yesterday there at the Garden as the Boston Celtics won by double digits over the Orlando Magic in game 1 of their best-of-7 series. This guy does a great job, yes, covering the Magic for Orlando Magic Daily. He's my great friend, Philip Rossman-Reich. How you doing, buddy?
Happy Patriots Day. I think that's what they say up here.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think about that, where they're going to play baseball early in the day, and then
it's marathon day, baby.
Yeah, that is
right. Go out for a jog a little bit later here.
We were just talking about this off air. It's kind of weird. So you played game 1 yesterday on Easter, then game 2's not till Wednesday. So I know you're there covering the team. Are they just going to stay there in Boston for practice?
Yeah, they're hanging out here in Boston for the week essentially until they'll fly home after Wednesday's game. I'm here till Thursday, so I'm here for the week. There's no point in them kind of shuttling back and forth. You just kind of settle in, unpack your bag. I unpack my bag, and you just kind of sit here for the duration and see where things take you. Obviously, disappointing start to the trip on Sunday, but I think Orlando still feel like they have something to show and something to prove here in game 2.
All right, let's recap yesterday. The Magic were leading in half, And then what adjustments did Boston make, especially in that third quarter?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing they made was they decided they were going to be physical. Like they looked at how the game was being called and said, we can't be afraid to hit these guys. Like I think there was a little bit of fear and a little bit of hesitation to be a super physical team because Orlando is so good at getting to the foul line. And like that's one of the few advantages the Magic have in this series, is statistically at least, Orlando was second in the league in getting to the foul line. Boston is like in the 20s. So winning the foul line was a big part of the series. But when you look at that first half, not a lot of fouls were being called. And I think the Magic are okay with that because they want to be physical. And I think the Celtics kind of looked at it and said, we can't be afraid to hit this team back. If they're not going to call fouls on their end for the hitting that they're doing to us, we can't be afraid to do that too. And that's, I think, when Boston really upped their defensive intensity, upped their ball pressure, really made the Magic uncomfortable. And knowing Orlando is going to struggle to score and struggle to create some scoring opportunities, that's where they created turnovers and created areas for them to get out and run before the Magic could get their defense set. And I think, Orlando can look at this game and say, we made a lot of the mistakes that cost us in this game. It wasn't necessarily what Boston did, although Boston did a lot. But Boston decided we're going to be the dominant team in this half. And that's, I think, what changed the game.
I was not shocked by the outcome yesterday.
No.
I was going to ask you, why were you not shocked by it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was shocked by it because I did expect the Magic to be competitive, but I expected kind of the slow burn where, if Orlando made the mistakes that they made, there'd be a lull offensively where the Magic just don't score enough. And that would enable Boston to kind of race ahead and run past them a little bit and kind of get out into the lead and pull away. That's kind of what I expected. It's just unfortunately the way that this Magic team is constructed and the way this Magic team plays, they don't have the firepower. And so there's, what a lot of this series is going to come down to is when Orlando hits that rut, when they hit that little lull, how far ahead is Boston going to get from them? How many points is Boston going to score during that stretch where Orlando's not scoring? And I think in the first half, Orlando did a good job of limiting that. Peyton Pritchard had that little run. They went up by 12. Orlando got themselves back, reeled that back in, took the lead at the half. In the second half, Orlando just could not reel them back in and could not find it again. They couldn't find that center and calm again. And that's kind of how this series is going to go. So it was shocking. It was disappointing, but it wasn't necessarily like surprising because I think Sunday's game is how a lot of these games are going to kind of play out.
Yeah, I just felt like Boston, they're going to come out and flex their muscle. We're the champs. We're on national TV. We're going to show people what we got. And you bring up Pritchard had 19. Derek White had 30. But the Pritchard really steps out because 19 points. And I looked at the box score, and I know you did as well. The Magic guards, all of them combined, I think scored 16 points yesterday.
I mean, like what? beyond that, like let's not dance around the elephant in the room. Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner scored 59 of the 86 points. No other player on the Magic roster scored more than 7 points. No other player on the Magic roster took more than 6 shots outside of Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner had a 39% usage rate. Paolo Banchero had a 37% usage rate. They were banging their head against the wall and doing everything essentially by themselves. Like the Celtics cut off all kinds of ball movement. And, I think that falls into the Magic's worst habits. When Orlando is at their worst, it is because they're not moving the ball. It is because, Paolo will probably never admit this, but you watch him sometimes and you think he thinks his mid-range jumper is a better shot than an open three from someone else because of how poorly everyone shot. And the Magic didn't shoot poorly last night from three. They made 10 of 27 threes. They were, 37% is a really good three-point shooting percentage. They needed to figure out a way to get more threes. As crazy as that sounds with how this season has gone for the Magic, they need to find a way to move the ball better and get others involved. Paolo was brilliant. Franz was really good as well. But Orlando just kind of found themselves in a hole and they couldn't get themselves out of it. And again, that's an everything. That's an everyone issue.
Well, Boston's a better team. Like I'll admit it. I mean, look, Magic Twitter, I'm just going to say this. They were not happy. No. And they should not be happy. You know what's interesting to me?
Well,
go on.
But this is, I mean, I made this point during the game and I think it's there's two things working. A, why we shouldn't be surprised by this. The issues that we saw Sunday afternoon are the issues we expected. like the Magic struggling to get shots, struggling to score, struggling to get anything going outside of Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. We know that's a shortcoming of the roster. I think it's been really difficult now for a little while to kind of separate what this team is capable of doing and what this team has to do from understanding that, yes, there are changes that need to be made. It's been really hard to separate the offseason discussion from the Magic are in the middle of a playoff series. Like this, the only thing that should matter right now is what's happening right now. And yes, Orlando has to be perfect. Like Boston is the kind of team that will make you pay for every single mistake and usually make you pay with a three. And if the Celtics hit a bunch of threes, Orlando's toast. They can't keep up with the three-point shooting. They have to limit the three-point shooting. And again, they held them to 37 attempts. That's pretty good for Orlando, and pretty good for Boston. If Boston's not getting 43s in game, Orlando has a chance. They made them, but a lot of those were because of fast break opportunities. Kickouts off offensive rebounds. A lot of things the Magic cannot have happen. The Magic did not play well Sunday, plain and simple.
No.
They did not play well. They don't have a chance if they don't play well.
I just want to say the Twitter, I'm just saying the Magic fans in general. Okay, some of them are critical of Coach Mosley. And look, that's any coach in any sport, right? You get that. It's not the players, it's Jeff Weltman. Is what you're trying to say. Like hey, why don't you get us better firepower?
This is an injured roster. Like Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner would help a ton in this series.
Yes.
Let's not pretend otherwise. But B, this is a deeply flawed roster. And I've been talking to Magic fans all morning. I've been talking to Magic fans since the game ended. It is a roster that needs an overhaul, that needs some players flipped over, needs to address needs. It's a roster that a lot of the bets that the Magic made did not pan out, whether it was investing in shooting in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And KCP has shot better over the last month and a half, 6 weeks. His defense, I thought, was excellent in Sunday's game. I know I got my stat sheet in front of me here, so if I look over, he made 2 threes, scored 6 points. Like, I didn't hate what Kentavious Caldwell-Pope did. The Magic need to get him more shots. Like, that's part of the issue is they need to find ways to get him more involved. And that's a Jamal Mosley issue, maybe, that the Magic haven't found creative ways to keep him involved in games, and he's gone in and out of usage and in and out of his field goal attempts. But the Magic didn't see kind of the growth they needed to see from some of their young players. Like, this is a series where we're going to learn a lot about Anthony Black.
I agree.
The Magic need Anthony Black to be very good. Corey Joseph, I thought he played fine for what he is. He used his fouls very economically, but the Celtics are targeting him. Cole Anthony. A lot of Boston fans were scared of Cole Anthony and his scoring burst and what he can do scoring-wise. But every time I read one of those, I was sitting there thinking, Cole Anthony's scoring is not going to matter because Boston's going to target him on defense and really make him work. And Cole played only 10 minutes because the Magic couldn't have him out there for very long. The only guard the Magic have that fits the switching scheme the Magic want to use to defend the three-point line is Anthony Black. And Anthony Black was better in the second half than he was in the first half. I think he was definitely like a little playoff jitters. His first real playoff game. He didn't play much in last year's postseason. Anthony Black's going to be really important. And so it's a kind of symbol for all the internal growth the Magic hope to have this year that they haven't seen. They've had a lot of guys not have good seasons. And that was a bet the Magic made that did not pan out this year.
We're at Phil Rossman-Reich, Orlando Magic Daily. He is there in Boston, getting ready for game 2 coming up on Wednesday night. Look, I said that last night on TV, dude. It's Anthony Black. He was the 6th pick in the draft. They went in all on him. Didn't he start yesterday as well?
No, Corey Joseph still started.
But he came in early in that first quarter.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, look, I got my stat sheet over here to my left. So
all right,
I'm looking over there. Corey Joseph played 26 minutes. Anthony Black played 13:45. Like, Anthony Black is going to finish games for the team. Like, they know they need his defense. They trust his three-point shooting a little bit more. But second quarter especially, AB caught the ball, had an opportunity to shoot, and didn't. And again, that's a problem throughout the roster, is there is this general hesitation to shoot, to attack, to score. And that's what the Magic are missing most right now. They need to find ways to attack outside of Paolo and Franz to keep the Celtics defense honest.
There was a play, I'm trying to think, was it third quarter where Franz is bringing up the ball? I think Holiday's on him, strips it. I think Franz fumbles it, and it goes the other way. And you could see Franz, like you said at the top here, Philip, him and Paolo are doing so much that I think they're just exhausted from trying to do everything.
They had 9 of the Magic's 15 turnovers. And a lot of those turnovers, like there was that turnover where Holiday picked Franz at the top of the key, and look, Drew Holiday is still an excellent defender.
Yes.
That's going to happen once or twice. It's going to happen once or twice in the series. What the problem with that play was that it led directly to a 3. That Franz sunk in the paint too deep, and Holiday was able to hit a 3. You almost, like in those situations, would rather concede the 2 than the 3, and it goes against your brain. It goes against what your brain wants to happen. But you almost have to be willing to say, like, if they get a fast break and it's a 2-pointer, so be it. That's fine. The thing that kills you is the 3-point shooting, because you can't make. It's tougher to make up the threes, especially if you're a team like the Magic. What a lot of those turnovers though were Paolo and Franz trying to get others involved, and because Boston's able to collapse the paint on them, it's become an issue for them to get up the hill and get there.
What was the post-game news conference like with Paolo after he put up that amazing performance?
I mean, I think he was disappointed and frustrated, but still pretty even-keeled. I think the Magic understood not necessarily that they could have won the game but they understood this was a game that was ripe for the picking and they could have been competitive. And I think they were more disappointed in themselves and frustrated with themselves than anything else. But at the same time, like, you could sense a maturity in this group that I don't think, but it certainly wasn't there last year. They understand this is just one game. They understand that there is still a series to go. They were never going to sweep the Celtics. So I think they understand that there's still more work to do and that this series is far from over. And so I think there is a determination now to get back to work. They did some good things. They're going to hold on to those things. They're going to work to improve the things that they didn't do well on and look to get back on the horse Wednesday in game 2 and see if they can steal a game in Boston. I think they ultimately know that the series doesn't really start till the road team wins. I think they feel confident that they can come home and pick up those games. I think they feel confident in their strategy and their game plan and what they're trying to do with this Boston team. I think they're very confident that their defense is going to give them a chance. They know they can't make the mistakes that they made in game 1 if they want to win this series.
I agree with you. And real quick, and I appreciate coming on. Do you feel like Tatum, whatever happens with his wrist, and then you got Jaylen Brown? I didn't think they played well in game 1. No. Do you think those two are going to come out? We're going to start scoring now on the Magic. Those two.
I think they're going to try. I turned to the other Orlando reporters at halftime and was like, with the way the stats are looking and the way this game is going, this might be the game they had to get. You're probably not going to get another bad Jason Tatum game. He was 1 for 8 from 3, 8 for 22, and you kind of have to live with Jason Tatum. They did a really good job forcing him to mid-range jumpers. He was actually, I think, 5 for 15 or 5 for, 5. He did not like 5 for 18 through 3 quarters. The dam kind of broke in the fourth quarter a little bit. I think that the Magic have a really good game plan to force Tatum and force Brown into the kind of offense they don't want to run, which is that a little more ISO heavy. Like, their defense is set up probably as good as any team in the league to really bottle up Boston in a way that makes them uncomfortable. It's going to be unclear. Like, there's going to be a game where Tatum just hits shots. Like, he hits tough shots, and that's what happens. The Magic can't expect that to happen. Can't expect Tatum to play this poorly again. They're going to have to really be on their toes. And they have to find the offense to sustain. Like, none of this matters if the Magic can't score. And like, I expect Paolo to have another 30-point game. I expect Franz to be up around 25 per game. The Magic need somebody else to help them. They need to reduce their mistakes. They need to make this game a slog and a low-scoring game. That's their only chance. They did a lot of those things on Sunday, and it's very clear Boston can be better just as much as it's clear Orlando can be better.
Well, whatever happens, at least they didn't lose by 51 points.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like, hey, Like as we were watching the end of that Memphis Oklahoma City game, we're like, the bar for embarrassment is very low here. Like we should like the Magic are not going to be the most embarrassing team no matter what happens today.
That game next Friday, or I'm sorry, this upcoming Friday.
The place
is gonna be rocking and rolling. It's coming up. All right,
it's gonna be a wild. Please. If I don't know if it's sold out yet. Magic fans, you need to fill that building. There's going to be a hefty amount of green. It needs to be their house. Like they're going to need it. They're going to need that lift. And it's going to be big.
Was it cool? I'll just end with this. Was it cool being in the building yesterday? For that
game?
No,
TD Garden was very, very cool building. Very, very, very cool. You can feel a little bit of the history. Like the banners are on the other side of the court near where the Magic sit, which was a little weird. I was like, I wanted to like kind of be mesmerized by them, but honestly, like that might have been part of it was the Magic had to get their bearings and kind of let the lights dim a little bit to being in that building. Like everyone knows the history in that building and the history of this franchise. That is part of the mystique of playing against Celtics.
They played well that whole second quarter. I think if I go back to the Atlanta game they won to clinch the 7th, they played well for 2.5 quarters. I think they can win Wednesday night. They got to play. They got to play
better.
Quarters.
Like they weren't good. They weren't good enough. And again, like if there is a silver lining, and I don't want to take credit away from Boston and their defense because they were a big part of it. If there is a silver lining, there is a lot of things the Magic did poorly that they can correct. Like honestly, I think I would look at game 1 and say the Magic lost this opportunity more than Boston beat them. Like.
Try to get this right. All right, yeah, we're still trying to figure out all the bells and whistles of this thing. Yeah, that is Phil Rossman-Reich with Orlando Magic Daily. Appreciate him coming on. I know he's a busy man. We did that this morning. He's there in Boston. Game 2 coming up Wednesday night. That is going to be, big one for the Magic. I think they can win. I went with the bold statement last night on News 13, Spectrum Sports 360. I think they're going to win game 2. I think they had chances last night. I think the 2 days off are going to help them out, regroup. I think they can win. I think the key is Paulo's going to get his 30. Franz is going to get his 20 plus. Who's going to be the third banana? That's going to be the question. All right. We are here broadcasting live on the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. And if you get into a car accident, hopefully you don't, but if you do, truck accident, slip and fall, you need to call my friends because that's what I would do. Anidjar and Levine. That's Mark Anidjar and Glenn Levine. They will fight for you and get you the maximum compensation you deserve. Call for a free consultation and don't settle for just any attorney. Demand Anidjar and Levine. Take back control of your life. Call them today. 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Also, great podcast partner of ours, Walk On Sports Bistreaux in Vieira, home of the $5 Tito's all day, every day, and Walk On's Vieira. Don't forget to join us Thursday night for our NFL Draft Watch Party. Craig hit me up on Facebook because I was talking about the WrestleMania main event last night where, yes, John Cena, give him all the props in the world, 17-time world champion, breaking the record with the Nature Boy Ric Flair, who has 16. That's right. He's the all-time champ now, even though it is professional wrestling. Craig hit me up. There need to be more surprises in the main event last night, but a good Mania. I agree. I know you want more of those pops. You want that nostalgia feel. Hey, I would have been fine if no one interfered and it was just Cena versus Cody Rhodes. I can't wait for tonight. I know John Cena said that as well, where he's like, hey, tune in tonight. You'll find out. I kind of like this. I like also he came out, no pyrotechnics, no pizzazz, no jazz hands. He just came out. It's a John Cena. I like, you can't see me. John Cena's been around a long time. He's 47 years old. Hell, I'm going to be 43 next month. I'm an OG as well. All right. One more conversation today for a Monday. It's a long one. It's one of my favorite I think I've ever done. This gentleman's been joining me for over a decade. His name is John Torres with the Florida Today newspaper. John, his reporting last week was phenomenal. Here's what I'm going to do. And John's a great guy, loves his Arsenal Gunners, loves the New York Mets, Washington Commanders. He's a great reporter here in Brevard County for the Florida Today. I'm just going to play the conversation. Enjoy. Joining me right now here on the Mark Moses Show to kick off the week here on a Monday. He's a great friend of mine and one of the best in the business when it comes to journalism and breaking down what TV shows he's watching. He is my good friend, Mr. John Torres with the Florida Today. John, how you doing today?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on as always, buddy. I appreciate it.
I know you're very busy, and especially the last couple of weeks, you've been extremely busy. So I want to say this. Your reporting on this story you did for the Florida Today was fantastic, and I want you to talk about it, but I'm just going to say this. John has been coming on my show, I don't know, since 2013, 2014, and I swear a decade ago, you're like, yeah, I'm starting this podcast, Murder on the Space Coast, huh? And I think you were still doing sports and you were doing transitioning to news, and you're like, yeah, there's this case, and and over the years, here's the update on the case. Here's this. Dude, this has been going on for a decade. I'm going to let you take the floor. What is the case? What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, well, I appreciate all of your kind words, Mark. Thank you so much for saying that. So the Murder on the Space Coast podcast, we wanted to focus on some cases of people that we felt were maybe in prison wrongfully, who didn't get a fair trial, or one season was about Brandy Hall, the firefighter who's missing still. It's almost 20 years, coming up on. So season 4, we did Jeff Abramowski's case, and so to show you how this goes in full circle, I actually covered his sentencing back in like 2006, I think. I wasn't the court reporter yet, but somebody was out sick or whatever, and I had to go. And I remember covering that sentencing. And I just always remembered, that the arguments were that, he was the guy's friend. Why would he want to kill him? And, also that he was addicted to drugs, but the guy that was found dead had drugs on him. So I'll just back it up a little bit. So Jeff Abramowski is a father of two, from like Palm Bay, Melbourne area. And he got into a bad car accident one morning driving the kids to school. He got hooked on painkillers, opioids. His wife threw him out. He was falling asleep everywhere. And so he hooked up with this guy, Courtney Crandall, 78-year-old guy in Palm Shores off US 1, down towards the old Florida Today building. And so this guy Crandall, according to the cops, would take addicts and he would go pill mill shopping, and he would take them around to all these unscrupulous doctors. You have some cash on you, you can get a prescription for 100 Oxycontin, whatever. He would let the addicts keep a certain amount of them to either use or sell or whatever, and he would keep the rest and he would sell them. So he ends up dead, right? He's killed brutally with a clothing iron and a claw hammer. He's found clutching the hair of his live-in girlfriend, and there's another blonde hair on his other finger. In the bathroom is blood of the live-in girlfriend's son, adult son, Bruce Foley. It turns out that Bruce Foley had a big fight with this guy a week before, and he stole a lot of drugs from him. So the live-in girlfriend's sister, Rita, also lived in town, and she was the victim's ex-girlfriend. And he was mad at her because she owed him all types of money. All right, so he gets killed. Those 3 people leave town in the middle of the night. They leave Melbourne, 2 a.m., to drive up to Alabama with no money, okay? When the cops find them, Bruce has scratches all over his face. They're asking about the scratches. They also find a piece of jewelry that the victim had, a necklace that his daughter had made for him special. And the daughter said, my dad would never, ever give that away to anybody because I gave it to him. It's a special daughter-dad thing. They were found with that, okay? They couldn't get their story straight to the cops about the exact time they left, why they left, why would they leave town with no money? but they all said one thing. So they all must have, been in cahoots and said, we're going to try to pin this on somebody else. So they all brought up the name of Jeff Abramowski. And I've listened to these tapes, and they're, available on season 4 of the podcast, and they all like mispronounce it almost on purpose. Like, it's comical. It's like, you should be talking to Jeff Azabowski. So like, I can't pronounce the name, which is how they all said it. Anyway, I'm not sure what happens then, but the cops changed their focus from them to Jeff. And so they go and they investigate Jeff. They check his hamper, his clothes, his shoes for any sign of blood or anything. No scratch marks on him. There's no, nothing. They even get the live-in girlfriend, Judy, to wear a wire to try and incriminate him, just so that he can say something. He doesn't say anything. So a few months go by, and Jeff wants to get his kids back, right? He's lost his wife and kids. He's an addict. He wants to get cleaned up. He has an old probation charge from an old DUI. He checks himself into the county jail. I'm here to turn myself in. I owe you guys some time for this probation, violation. That's when the cops come, the sheriff's investigators come, and they interrogate him for hours. And it's so clear that he has no idea what they're talking about. But they're getting, it's just like those TV shows where they are really trying to really pressure him. They're on top of him. He's in the corner, and the chairs are just 1 foot away. The guy's in his face. We know you did it. We know you did it. Blah blah blah. He says he's innocent. They interview him a second time in the jail because he's there for a few months, whatever. And they tell him, we have your DNA at the crime scene. We know it's you. Now, cops are allowed to lie during interrogations, okay? But they can't lie in open court. So they didn't have his DNA. What they said was the hair is yours that the victim was clutching. It was the girlfriend's. The blood in the sink, whatever, the hair on the fingernail, all that stuff. It wasn't. He goes to trial, and he gets a mistrial, right? Because the prosecutor said, we have one of our witnesses is an inmate from the jail who's going to say that Abramowski gave him a jailhouse confession. Well, I spoke to the guy for my podcast. He was in prison still when I was interviewing him. And he said that they fed him information, that the cops fed him information about the case and wanted him to make up this, story. And at first he said, okay, because they were going to help him with his charges. But when it came time to go and actually, testify, he couldn't do it. He said, this is wrong, because this guy didn't, say this stuff to me, so I'm not going to do it. Jailhouse informants and stuff, you have to take that stuff with a grain of salt, except the second guy had something notarized and sent it into the courts saying that the sheriff's investigator went to him with the same sort of deal, trying to get him to make up stuff about Abramowski. So there's a mistrial. The second trial happens, and the wife of the first lawyer, she was a private attorney. She goes and she talks Jeff into letting her do the case 2 weeks before the murder trial. Now, it turns out that she was having some, mental issues.
What?
And, yeah, she was delusional, and he didn't know this. And he also didn't know that she had no experience with murder trials. She had never done one. In fact, I think she had only done one felony trial. So he thinks he's in great hands. You're a private attorney. It's not the public defender's office. This is going to be great. Well, she was out of her league, and she kind of botched, that second trial. And the sheriff's investigator lies on the stand. She asks him, did you tell Jeff that the hair was his, that the DNA was his? And he said, no, I didn't. And she goes, are you sure about that? And he says, yeah, I didn't. So it was a really red flag for me when I found that out. My jaw dropped because this investigator, I had always respected him. And when I heard this, he just openly lied. It isn't like he said, I don't remember. He said, no, I didn't say it.
Oh, okay. Just want to interject. You've just gone about 7 minutes, and I appreciate that. No, I know, dude. Look, I know he's got to get water now. You've been covering this, like you said, since 2006.
Yeah.
The murder took place, what was it, 2002?
Correct.
So and if I get this right, it is 2025. So it's interesting hearing you talk about this because you have been there for like 19 years in theory talking about this case. Dude, I remember, okay, your old building on US 1. I remember being in your office. Make sure I say this right. I was in your office. You had different things on the board about episodes that were coming up. And I remember you talking about this. And I think this was 10 years ago. So it's not like John, if you see him on video for this podcast, you're not reading off anything. You know this all by your heart because you've been there every step of the way. So, and I want to interject with this where so I go to a dentist's office on Wickham and Lake Washington, and the dental hygienist, okay, I know, seriously, her name is Jamie, one of the nicest ladies I've ever met, and she helped me get my root canals done. All right, she's a humanitarian for going into this to look at this teeth. So she came up to me one time, and she was like, "Hey, do you know John Torres?" I was like, "Yeah, John's a good friend of mine." She's like, "You tell John, thank you so much for everything he's done with Murder on the Space Coast and talking about my dad and bringing up this story." And so it's interesting being friends with Jamie, her perspective. She's on Facebook all the time breaking down, my dad is innocent. Here's what's going on. Don't forget this. So, okay, I just want to interject because I know you're going to go another 10 minutes now. John, all right.
And so she's my hygienist also. So yeah, I love Jamie.
Great lady. So, okay. So he's found guilty. This is 2006.
Right. And so he's found guilty on only one piece of evidence that they say they have. They say that there was DNA from Jeff Abramowski under the victim's fingernails. Now, a jury hears that like, well, okay, well, that has to be, in a fight, in a big struggle. But what they didn't tell you was that the amount of DNA was so small. It wasn't even a skin flake or, blood. It was, kind of like touch DNA where they couldn't even do a second test to verify it. That's how small it was. The other thing was that it wasn't a match. It had certain characteristics in that DNA profile that matched that, couldn't exclude Jeff. Okay. So look, your keyboard at work, right? You're on it all the time. If I go in there and I type something, your touch DNA is going to be on my fingernails for, whatever time it is. And so I interviewed a DNA expert for this podcast, Candice Zuliger. I think I have that name right. And she explained all about this. And she said that it's a real shame that the investigators, the cops, the prosecutors don't really share everything with the juries, that they, some DNA is just transferable touch DNA, but a jury hears DNA under fingernails and they think, okay, this guy's got to be guilty. So long story short, he's found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
Yeah. Okay.
So years later, when we're talking to you about the podcast, I go and I see him twice. And over the course of like 2 or 3 years, because I was just like putting together stuff on this. And the guy's like story has like never changed, and he claims he's innocent. Like he says that he was friends with the victim. And like I said, he was a bad drug addict, right? The victim was found with $90 on him and 200 Oxycontins. Now, if you're going to kill somebody for their drugs, at least like you've done the deed, wouldn't you take the drugs and the money, right? So anyway, and would you turn yourself into the county jail if you've just killed somebody? So it's all this stuff. Anyway, my podcast comes out. Attorney Kevin McCann, I had never heard of him. He's not. He hadn't done a whole lot of criminal trial stuff. He's more of like an investigative lawyer. He likes to try and chase down justice and things like that. He said he heard my podcast and he couldn't believe it, and he asked me if I'd share all of the materials I had with him. So I had to check with my bosses, just to make sure that was cool. I give it all to him. I don't hear anything from him for like a few years. Then every so often I would text him and he would say, yeah, we're still working on it. We have a lot of things happening and, so forth. Well, he did a tremendous job with the stuff that I gave him, traveled up to Alabama several times to interview Bruce Foley and his family members. He's got all types of other exculpatory evidence, which I can't talk about just yet because the charges are still, pending on Jeff. But what he basically was able to do was talk the state into really doing new and advanced testing for DNA on the iron and the clothing hammer, the claw hammer and the clothing iron that were used to kill the victim. They do it, and he filed a motion April 1st, right? April Fool's Day, believe it or not.
Of this year?
Of this year.
Wow.
That the DNA came back, and it pretty much excludes Jeff. So what it is on one of the items, they have male DNA from two people, I believe, and Jeff is 100% excluded. It's not his DNA. The other one also has like two other male DNA or like something, and it's like one in X amount that it's Jeff, but it's like the odds are so astronomical that the state agreed if the jury had this information, they might not have convicted him. So last week the charges were overturned, and Jeff walked out of the county jail on Friday. He's on a bond because the state has to decide whether or not they're going to try him again, which they're not, because there's no evidence. The live-in girlfriend overdosed. Rita Akridge, killed herself, and Bruce Foley's the only other suspect up in Alabama. If they can't use that DNA or the cop lying on the witness stand, they don't have anything. But Mark, I got to tell you, William Dillon and Wilton Dedge, who were in prison for over 20 years each, and I wrote about their cases, they credited me with helping to get them out. And I always felt that wasn't really, I appreciated the words, but I felt that wasn't really genuine because lawyers were already working on their cases and like DNA was being tested. I just kind of just kept it alive. But this case, I really feel like it's the greatest journalism achievement of my lifetime, because it was my podcast that and the lawyer says, it was the podcast that, really got me, and I listened to it and I couldn't believe it. And so Jeff comes out of prison Friday, and I actually have this on video because I was videotaping him and Jamie hugging, and he walks over to me and he reaches out his hand and he goes, "John, I owe you my life."
Yeah.
And dude, I just started crying. Like I like began tearing up and because and I said, "No, you don't." And he goes, "No, I do. And long story short, we went to dinner that night with his family, and he told me several times, "I owe you my life, dude. I owe you my life. You always believed in me." And I appreciate the words and stuff, but there were other people, the lawyers, his family. I mean, so I'm just happy to have played a part in this. So
that's awesome, dude. That's incredible. It really is. It's so crazy. What's funny is John and I usually talk football. We will talk Game of Thrones. How you love Arsenal. I know you got your Gunners jersey on right now. Kit. I'm sorry. I got to say it right. You love the New York Mets. Like, I've known you a long time, but I swear at the end of every conversation over the last decade, it's like, "Hey, what are you working on right now?" You're like, "Well, I'm working on this murder trial. I'm working on this for my podcast." All right. So I got a couple questions now.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you were starting the podcast, was this one of the stories where you're like, "You know what? I'd like to work on that story"? Like, how did you come up? Like, I wanted to do this for one of the podcasts.
Yeah. So like season 1 was Gary Bennett, who's a guy that we're sure also is in prison, and he's not guilty. He's like serving a life sentence. He's been in prison for like 37 or like 38 years now. It may even be 40 years, but there's no evidence or stuff that can clear him. So he's kind of, up the creek without a paddle, unfortunately. And then season 3, I did Brandy Hall. And for season 4, I wanted to go back to a guy that I believed was in prison wrongfully. And it was Jeff Abramowski. Now, I had already interviewed him once in prison, so I had some audio. So that was a big help. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to prison, interview him again, and really try to flesh out the story. And I was able to get all types of audio from like all the cop recordings, all of their interviews. I have all the audio from that. The trials are on like YouTube, so you can watch them and you can get audio from that. And then his family members, of course, I interviewed Jamie and then his ex-wife and people involved with the case. And it's funny, I started the thing and I thought he was in prison wrongfully, but mainly because he didn't get a fair trial. Because that's my thing. It's like I want bad people in prison. You know what I mean? And you know, like you have to pay the price, but it's got to be a fair trial. This is not like the Taliban over here. You know, it has to be fair. You can't lie on the witness stand. You can't like make up evidence.
John, it's like I always joke. The TV show is called Law and Order. It's not just law. It's you get your day in court. That's what it needs to be in this country.
Yes.
See, what's interesting with you, you were there in 2006 because you filled in for someone else.
Right.
So and I get it. Look, you're doing this all the time, but you had this personal connection to it because you were there. You saw it. So then you keep coming back to it. It's just mind boggling. It kept going on. I like what you said with the lawyer. You gave him the info, you gave him all your material, then didn't hear from him for a couple years.
Right.
People think this is a 45-minute episode of Law and Order.
Right.
No, this has been going on forever. All right. My question then is, okay, you're putting together the podcast. This is for our viewers and listeners. How do you get the information from is it public record where you can get those, the interviews with the police and him? How do you do that?
Yeah, sure. So it is public record, and you just put in the request. We had to pay for some of it because they have to have an employee, try to gather everything for you and stuff. It was maybe like a few $100. I can't remember what it was, but we paid for it and we got it. And then I just painstakingly listened to everything. And one thing that I like to do, Mark, that like some people laugh at me, but as I'm hearing the audio from something, I personally transcribe every word. I don't use Otter or any of those transcription services because I want to hear it. I want to type it because I can then remember it more, like that way. So I can refer to it. Oh yeah, the interview with that cops, he said this. Let me go find that and I'll know where it is. So I mean that took months of just transcribing, audio. And but so I'm not sure if he's innocent or not, right, as I'm doing this, until I just begin to peel off layer after layer after layer. I'm like, oh my God. This guy he was honestly framed. And I'm not sure why the cops moved away. That's the big mystery that I really want to find out next. Why did they shift the focus from the people that ran away in the middle of the night with a necklace that belonged to the guy? He's holding her hair. His body is found holding her hair. Why was the focus moved away from them and onto Jeff Abramowski? And, Jeff was an easy target, Mark, right? He was a drug addict. He was living on, in friends' houses on couches. He was, couch surfing. His wife had thrown him out, he had a few little scrapes with the law, but nothing violent. He had a DUI and a worthless check, charge, and he was just low-hanging fruit for them, I guess.
We're here with John Torres, Florida Today. The photos I saw Friday night, this man has been in prison for the last 3 years?
23 years.
23 years. Okay. There's the moment you talked about this earlier where he gets out, he's released, he hugs his family, he shakes your hand, he thanks you, as he should. Then there's these photos where you're at dinner and he's sitting there. And I kept thinking, looking at those photos, what do you think's going on in this guy's head? He has not been free for over 2 decades. He's sitting there and he has a great photo where he's with his grandchildren. He's probably never really had a chance to be with them. And now he does. And I know the court ordered him to live with the daughter as well, right? Yeah. Jamie. So yes. I just think everyone's at the table. Everyone's happy. What's going on in his mind? And you think it's like a science fiction movie. So think about all the things that have changed in the world, all of it. Social media, how cell phones are now. Does he even know how the world exists anymore? That's what's kind of weird to me.
Mark, that is a great question. You should be a crime journalist because that's pretty good. When I covered William Dillon's case, he was in prison for 27 years for a murder he did not commit. He was cleared by DNA, fully exonerated. I followed him around his first year. We would meet up and I would videotape him, for a little, film we did. And he said that he didn't feel like he belonged in this world. It took him a long time. He didn't know how to pay with a debit card at the, at the store. I mean, just so many things he didn't know. Jeff is going to need his family to really be patient with him help him. He may even need therapy, because he's been so institutionalized. I don't know if you remember the Shawshank Redemption when the
I was thinking that.
He's raising his hand to ask his boss if he can use the bathroom, and his boss, you don't have to ask me, just go. Jeff may be feeling a lot of that. I mean, I think on Friday it was just a surreal. He was just overcome with joy, and it was like so funny. The only thing he really wanted was a tall glass of milk, because they don't get milk, I guess, in the prison. So he wanted a tall glass of ice cold milk and a steak because he hadn't had beef in so long. So that's what he had Friday. Yeah, but he has a great home. Jamie, her husband Billy, and the kids, and then her husband's parents live a few houses up on the same street, so he has a good little network of support there. But Jamie sent me this great photo on Friday night late. He was asleep in his own bed in his own private room for the first time in over for a long time, but he wasn't alone. Her cat jumped up on him and stayed with him all night long, just kind of hanging out on his belly.
I can't imagine you're caged. That's the poetic in my head thinks that you're caged. You can't leave. He might wake up. Hey, you could walk out the front door. You could just go wherever you want. It's the word freedom. You could do whatever you want moving forward. He's an older gentleman though, correct?
Yeah, he's about 63, but he looks a lot older, and prison ages you, obviously, all that stress and stuff, but he's also had some health issues. So I'm so glad he's out now, Mark. He had an operation, I guess, in the prison, system about a year ago, and it hasn't healed properly. And so his side, it looks like he has a giant sort of growth, coming out of his side. And so, he really needs to get that checked out. So Jamie's first order of, taking care of him is to get him to a doctor. And but he has a cell phone now, and he actually texted Happy Easter yesterday, which was really cool.
That's very nice. By the way, you're not paying for any dental work moving forward. There's no way. Okay, there's no way. That check has been taken care of. Don't worry. Are you going to update? I can't believe I have to ask this. Are you going to update the podcast episode?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we had a meeting at work last week, to talk about exactly when. We may wait to see what happens with the charges first. Either way, if the state's going to go ahead with a trial, have a podcast about all which has happened since the end of the of the podcast ending all those years ago to now, and then he's facing a trial or his freedom. But either way, we're going to have that hopefully done within a next few weeks, few episodes of the podcast. Yeah.
This is crazy. All right, I'm going to say this to you, and it's hard for me to do, but I'm going to say it. We're here at John Torres, Florida Today. That is an exceptional journalistic work you did.
Thanks,
do you feel like there's pressure now, though, where you're going to have other family members? Hey, miracle worker, can you go help my family member now? Since you don't, I know you've been thinking about this, so I wanted to pose that question to you.
Yeah, I actually, in fact, I just got a message on Facebook this morning from some woman from the Chicago area who wants help with this wrongful incarceration case that she says. Unfortunately, I do local stuff. So if it's in Brevard County, but I will look at her case and I'll see if there's any newspapers that we own in that area that I can maybe ship the story to or something, or just let them know about it. But and I do get a lot of mail from inmates asking for help, and I try to send them to their newspapers from their towns or whatever that can try to help them.
I had to ask the question. I had to, because I know you're thinking about it. So in conclusion, we're doing a TED Talk here, and I appreciate coming on. We're here with John Torres, Florida Today. You pick a story. How long did it take you to put the full podcast together, the timeline?
That's a good question, Mark. I can't remember exactly, but I'm going to say probably a year. 9 months to a year. Understanding the story, I had to do a timeline of events, based on all all the interviews, tried to put it all together, and then interview experts like on lay DNA and stuff that would, and just add them, and then kind of, like write the episodes. And so like up to a year. I mean, and I was pretty much only doing that,
Yeah. No, look, you do a great job. I'll keep throwing you roses. I don't care. It's like, it is unbelievable what you said. And if you look at John's career, and we need a Wikipedia page for you. We do. There's a photo on Facebook of you. Where are you? It looks like you're in front of an army plane. What is this like? Because what's that photo?
So that was a Royal Singaporean Air Force Chinook helicopter that after the tsunami in like 2004, I flew to Indonesia with my buddy Joe Hurston, the water purifier guy from Titusville. I've traveled all over the world with this guy. He's like a guardian angel, and we got to ground zero where the tsunami hit Indonesia. And I mean, it was just an unbelievable trip. It was amazing. The people were so thankful that the world had not forgotten about them. But I was there like right after it happened. And, so there was like an area with just like mud. And we learned that 8 bodies had been pulled out of there the following day, just, mind-boggling stuff. We saw boats miles inland, like on like city streets, just kind of washed up, But yeah, look, I've been lucky. I traveled to Africa with Florida Today, to India. I covered the Olympics in like 2006 in Torino. But this Friday, this one day Friday, I came home and I told my wife, this is probably the most satisfying day in my journalistic, lay career, just to watch this guy just walk out of prison so happy and so really. It's the first time I had ever seen him smile. And I told him that. I have never seen Jeff smile.
That is crazy. We have gone about 30 minutes. This is the most serious conversation I've ever had with you. I am not kidding around. Usually we're complaining about your commanders and like, it's like crazy to think, dude. All right. Before I let you go, how can we check out all your articles and especially the Murder on the Space Coast podcast? How can we do that?
Okay, so just go to floridatoday.com and we have a search engine. You can just type in my name or Abramowski, or just go to Murder on the Space Coast on there. Look, the podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, it's all the major platforms. Just type in Murder on the Space Coast. Season 4 is Jeff Abramowski. Season 5 is Crosley Green, who's in prison for 30-something years, and he's an innocent man as well. And I almost felt sad on Friday that he wasn't coming out as well. But we won't give up on that one either. So
is Mr. John Torres with the Florida Today. Love that conversation. We did it this morning. And I usually don't do full-on news stories like that, but it was one of those kind of stories where I've been talking about that with him for like a decade now. And that's cool with the update. And we'll repost that in case you want to see the full conversation. That was really cool. All right, before I let you go, we're broadcasting live here on the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. They're Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Also want to thank our great podcast partner, Walk On Sports Bistreaux in Vieira, home of the $5 Tito's all day, every day. Walk On's Vieira. Don't forget our NFL draft parties coming up on Thursday night at Walk On's there in Vieira, right behind the gigantic Walmart. Also want to thank Philip Rossman-Reich, Orlando Magic Daily. Magic will play again on Wednesday night. I know here tonight, what's on tap? Monday Night Raw with John Cena. I got to watch that. And locally, I know a lot of local area high school baseball teams are in regional action this evening. So we'll recap that tomorrow with Alan Slaughter-Zinski, Brevard Sports Network. So for everyone, I'm Mark Moses. Have a great night. And guess what? We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Mark Moses Show.